So welcome back to The Expert Edge. Today we are talking about building a valuable network. I know for me, so much of my success has come from the network that I have built and the relationships that I have. In fact, I just reached out to a friend because I needed some connection in PR. I just reached out to a friend, got a connection right away. Like, your network is so valuable. And so just as much as technology is increasing, I think the value of your network is going to absolutely increase as technology increases. And so these human relationships is so important. Now, on the topic of building networks and building authority, building relationships, I'm hosting a new workshop, and it's called the Speak to Convert Masterclass. It's going to share with you the strategies, the skills for building your audience, delivering presentations that get a flood of clients, and then how to build that offer so that it becomes irresistible. I'm going to be taking you through my Speak to Convert methodology. It's a new workshop. I think you're going to love it. The link will be in the show notes, or you can go to colinboyd.co/speak, and you can check that out. It's completely free. It's going to be an hour masterclass. It's live only, by the way, because I'm like all in on live, just so you guys know. I'm like, I want to answer your questions. I want to network with you. I want to connect with you. It's a live only masterclass. And so go and check it out, colinboyd.co/speak. And looking forward to having you on the workshop. It's going to be in-depth and super practical. So let's get into today's conversation, all about building a valuable network. Hey, it's Colin, and you are listening to the Expert Edge podcast. I was a professional speaker for over a decade, and now I focus on helping coaches, speakers, and course creators to speak and sell on virtual and live stages. The Expert Edge podcast is weekly content focused on helping you build your expert business. We cover marketing, storytelling, sales, communication skills, and so much more. Thanks for taking the time to tune in, and make sure you subscribe and follow us on all our social channels so you don't miss a thing. Let's listen to today's episode. So I know you've heard all of these kind of adages about your network is your net wealth, or you are who you hang around, right? And the idea of building a network that is valuable is obviously a very known kind of fact. But the reality is that for many of you, you haven't built the network that you wanted to. Like, if I was to come to you and say, hey, could you introduce me to some people who you've got trust with and they've got access to like big networks themselves, or big stages, or big opportunities. For many of us, we would struggle to find maybe one or two of those people. And I want to talk about how to build your network, because I believe that relationship, network, being able to build and facilitate genuine relationships in your industry is really important to the long-term success of your business. If I look back over my business, I would say that more than 50% of the success that I've had in my business has been due to relationships and friendships that I've made in the industry. In fact, I don't want to toot my own horn, but a lot of the times, I'm about to do a toot. A lot of the times, people will ask me, they'll say, Colin, how did you get connected to that person, right? Like, how were you able to do some work with Amy Porterfield, or Jenna Kutcher, or Anthony O'Neill, or Carrie Green, or Julie Solomon, or like, how did you get connected to them? How did you build those relationships? And I want to kind of share some insights on how I tactically did that, and why I do that, and how you can too, right? Because I think it's really important to build relationships with people in your network that are valuable to your business, your professional success, but also obviously valuable on your personal success. Now, I share this with a caveat, because I think that, if you look at some of the techniques and strategies that people use to build relationships, it can come off kind of manipulative, or it can come off like ill-willed, if you know what I mean. Like, now if you take it to the extreme, like maybe I think about that book, which I haven't read, but I randomly heard about it recently. It's called The Game. And it was like how to basically, attract the opposite sex and kind of like, take it, in other words, take advantage of them in their behavioral, traps. Now, this is not that at all. In fact, I'm not going to talk much about techniques and behaviors because I believe that a lot of it has to do with your mindset and your energy. And so I think you're going to catch something from today's conversation. That's my goal, is for you to catch something. Does that make sense? And so first of all, when it comes down to it, the first thought I want to share is that I think you need to decide that building a network is important. And what that means tactically is, have you looked around, like, where are people meeting up? Like, are you a part of a community? Like, are you going to, I find conferences and events very powerful for this. In fact, for me, when I go to a conference or event, it is probably 80% about meeting people and 20% about the content at the event. And so a lot of the time, when the speaking is on, when the events are on, right, the sessions, a lot of the time I will not be sitting in my seat. I will be in the hallway outside of the event, because do you know who hangs out in the hallways during the sessions? The most influential people do. And because a lot of people are in there trying to gather information, trying to learn, and the most influential people are actually out in the hallways. This is like a little hack you may or may not know. But if you want to meet influential people and get to know people and be introduced to people, go in the hallways while the sessions are on. Now, if you ever come to one of my events, you need to be in the session, right? This is for everyone else's events. But this is really interesting, especially at those, like those big convention events. Being in the hallways is really powerful. And I know for me, being in people's programs has been absolutely powerful. I will say for me is that most of the friendships, relationships that have changed my life, I have paid money to make those friendships. Now, I haven't obviously exchanged money with the person, but I've paid money to be in the room to build that relationship. So all of the, especially the most influential people that I've worked with and also have friendships with, almost all of them came from paying to be in a room, and maybe there was someone in that room who introduced me to the next person. Does that make sense? And so the idea of paying to create relationships is a truth that I am completely okay with, because I'm not, you get it. I'm not paying the person to have the relationship with them. I'm paying for a space to be facilitated to build that relationship, right? Now, when I come in to network with people, one of my intentions is I really want to come from a place of abundance. So I come in with an intention to connect from abundance. And so rather than coming in and thinking, I want to make friends, or I want people to like me, or I want opportunities, I don't come in with that intention. And there's something really powerful about this. You need to come in to the intention. You come to a conference, a workshop, an event where you're meeting people. Come from a place of abundance. In other words, I literally, in my mind, I'm thinking I have an abundance of opportunities for me. I'm not needy, I'm abundant. And I want to share these opportunities, insights, lessons, relationships with other people. There is something attractive about when you come from a place of enough, of being enough, of having enough. If you come from a place of being needy, people can sniff it out from a long way back. Have you noticed that? Like, sometimes there's people in your world and they kind of just grind you the wrong way. And you might describe them as, they're really needy. It's like they're looking for something. And what's kind of interesting, almost sad, is like they're coming from a place of feeling like they're trying to fill something up. So they're desperately wanting it. But when you come from that energy, you actually repel the very thing that you want. And so the truth is that when you come from a place of abundance, a place of enough, a place of, and this is you just deciding, by the way, it's, you in your mind might think, oh, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough opportunity. I get it, right? But I want you to know there's always going to be more. There's always going to be room for more. There's always going to be a need or a desire for more. So just deciding that you have enough already, you have something valuable to offer, you have an abundance to give. And because of that, you'll actually build more healthy, magnetic relationships with people rather than coming from a place of being a fan or needing something from them. Like, think about it like this. If you talk to someone from a place of you're a fan of them, they are rarely, I would say 99% of the time, rarely ever going to make the transition from them being a fan of you to them being a partner with you or a friend with you. There's been about 3 or 4 people I've seen do that transition in my world, but it's really rare. And so I think it's really powerful to come in and just, first of all, just assume that you as a human is worth the same. Right? As a human, that's one of my beliefs, is that everyone has innate value. Everyone is actually worth the same. Now, I think there's market value and then there's personal value. I'm talking about personal value right now. You as a person, you're as valuable as anyone else. You're as valuable as me. You're as valuable as your next door neighbor. You're as valuable as, anyone in importance, right? In status. And there is market value as well. And so I think if you can come from a place of being enough and then work on your market value of what you can add, that's a powerful combination of building great networks. And so the first principle I think about is set an intention to connect from abundance, not from scarcity, not from need, from abundance. The second thing is I'm really conscious about putting money in the bank for people. Now, I don't mean physically money in the bank, although that may be part of it, but just being a generous person. So one thing that I do is when I make a connection at a conference and I want to continue that relationship, I actually have time in my calendar every 60 days or so, and I will intentionally reach out to that person. Now, there's levels of reach out. I think Instagram is a really nice one to do it without being creepy, and I usually send them like a written text, like, hey, first name, whatever their name is, and then I'll send them a voice text. There's something beautiful, not too long, not like a 19-minute voice text, like 60 seconds. And it's like just a check-in to see how they're going, a little bit of an update about me, and then asking them, could you give me an update? I'd love to hear how you are. Because we're trying to build some relationship out, not just with work, but just like how things are going, how you could ask how the business is going, whatever it is, right? But if you think about it, Instagram's a great place to start with in your DMs. The next level would be WhatsApp is a great place to do it on. And then the closest level of intimacy is a message, right? A text message. And so depending on the relationship, I'll usually start on Instagram and then kind of like make my way up to text messaging. And so because you don't want to come across creepy and needy and pushy and all that sort of stuff. And so I would just kind of like, just start there. And if they respond, then I'll go to the next level. Voxer is a really great platform as well that I like to connect on. So I'll just usually start with those sort of things, right? And I have a time in my calendar, usually every 60 days or so, and I'll reach out to people and just check in with them and see how they are and give me an update and all that sort of stuff. And it's interesting when they come through my area, they'll text me and say, hey, I'm coming through Newport Beach or I'm coming through California. Are you around? Love to catch up. Like just a friend of mine just did that. She's coming over from the UK recently. And so like this building of the network purely from an intentional space of wanting to add value to them, of coming from a place of abundance, not needing anything, and seeing myself as an equal, not as a fan, is really important to building that network. When I think about all the big opportunities that I've had in my journey with different affiliates and networks and so forth, it usually always started with me helping them out first. And that would be me adding value based on my skill set to their world. And so in my context, it might be helping them with a story, or it might be helping them with a slide deck, or helping them with a message in a presentation, right? Or it could be having them on my podcast. That's, by the way, can I say this? The reason I started this podcast was less about building the audience and more about two things. Number one, refining my content continually. Like, I want something where I have to show up each week and create and generate some new piece of content. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I wanted a platform that was valuable to share with other people that I wanted to build a relationship with. And so when you share a valuable platform and you promote their stuff, what do you think happens, right? It's the law of reciprocity, is like they will feel that magnetic pull to want to share your stuff. If you ever want to be on someone else's podcast, ask them to come on your podcast first. I don't ask to go on people's podcasts. I get people onto my podcast, and then they'll say, especially if they have a podcast, they'll say, hey, do you want to come on my podcast, right? And so that reciprocity, which is a Robert Cialdini principle of influence, is so powerful, But like I said, it has to be done from the intention of like, if they don't invite me on their podcast, that's totally fine as well. For me, it's about, I want genuine relationships with people where I can add value, they can add value to me. There's a beautiful exchange that happens. But it all starts with coming from this place of like, I want to give. I want to contribute. I have enough opportunities and I have an abundance, and I want to help serve and contribute into people's lives. I intentionally look for places to connect. And because of that, over the years, I put myself in paid programs. I put myself in conferences. I put myself in meetups. I put myself in networking opportunities. And over the years, and I'll say this, whenever I join a program, even if it's online, if there's no, in-person experience to it, I will look at the group of people. I'll say this, like literally, I'm recording this podcast right now. In 15 minutes, I'm about to catch up with someone who is an absolute rock star in our industry. We're about to do a half an hour catch up on Zoom, right? She lives in another state. She has completely exploded her business the last 2 years. It's gone from like $2 million to about $12 million. Absolute rock star in our industry. And I'm about to catch up, and we're just going to have just a chat about life, hang, all that sort of stuff. Just have a chat about business, what's working, what isn't working. And it's all these little things of putting that money in the bank, building those relationships, building those common connections, that when we see each other or when we need something or when we need some help, it makes sense. There's like a collaboration with it. There's a connection. There's a resonance that happens. And so my biggest encouragement for you today is, if you find yourself not having the network that you want, I want to encourage you that you can create it. And it starts with just being intentional to go to some of these events. Or if you're in paid programs right now, probably the easiest thing to do is look at the group and reach out to people in the group who you would like to connect with and say, hey, we're a part of the same group. I always like to catch up with new members, see if we can collaborate, learn from each other. Would you be up for a 15-minute catch up? Like 15 minutes, like start with that, right? And you can ease your way into it, and it builds beautiful relationships, great connections, and makes your network really, really valuable. So I trust and I hope that has been valuable today in terms of our conversation. If you are a long-term listener and you haven't checked out Conversion Story Formula, I don't know what you're doing, because Conversion Story Formula is one of the most powerful ways to design and deliver your story in a way that attracts clients. So check out conversionstoryformula.com. It's a great place to get started with my content. And I trust that this has been a good conversation. We'll see you guys next week. Bye for now.